Hello, and welcome to Successful Not Satisfied. Here is the podcast where we interview executives, CEOs, and business owners, much like you, who are trying to figure out how to make it all work, make it go, and dealing with the daily challenges that most businesses face. Here you're going to learn about what they're doing to overcome those challenges, and hopefully you'll get some ideas to help your own company. So check it out, Successful Not Satisfied. Enjoy the episode. All right, welcome to Successful Not Satisfied. Today I have Carson Goodale with me. Carson, welcome.
Welcome. Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be a part.
Well, it's great to have you on here. So we've been connected through different social channels, but LinkedIn primarily. And you actually own a company called Fan Food, which you were a co-founder of. So I'm interested to learn more about Fan Food, as I'm sure our listeners are as well. And you've kind of taken a unique take on going to the stadium and ordering your brats and beer, haven't you?
Yes, we have. No one likes waiting in long lines for concessions. So we started the business in 2014 to eliminate those long lines.
So. Well, tell me a little bit more about that. So what was the impetus or obviously you said nobody wants waiting in long lines, but what got you started on this path?
No. The aha moment isn't too exciting, but so I went to I graduated from the University of Iowa, and while studying finance, I was at a bar with some of my buddies complaining about a crappy experience, and I remember telling them, like, wouldn't it be great if we could order a drink off our phone rather than having have to navigate through this crowded, congested bar, and kind of have a more on-demand type experience, and have the server bring it to us rather than us having to navigate through and wait in these lines. So we pivoted to sports and live entertainment because that's where we felt the biggest kind of greenfield of opportunity lied with respect to what we were looking to set off. And I felt as the founder, like that was the number one pain point as a sports fan, was waiting in lines for 20, 30 minutes on end.
So you go to, I'm assuming again, app-based like everything else is, you go to your app, you type in what you want to order, you hit send, and then do they bring the food to you, or do you still have to go out to the concession stand, but instead of waiting in the line, it's waiting there for you to pick up?
Yep, exactly. It's either or, okay. And even the ability to order ahead before you even get to the event. So we have all these kind of different options, and that's something that makes us a little bit unique, is when we partner with a venue, we like to provide kind of a recommendation for what a mobile ordering rollout could look like. Typically like to start with express pickup. That's the easiest to digest from an operational perspective. But love to get to that in-seat delivery aspect inside a venue. A little bit more operationally challenged, but we have the part of our platform includes a in-seat delivery application to help manage those in-seat delivery orders. So And
so my question to you is, when do I get to go to Lambeau Field and hit a button where they come to my seat with the beer already ready to go?
Sooner than you probably think. I think, like, with the pandemic, one of the biggest trends, I think pre-pandemic, I should say, was this trend to go cashless for venues and the various benefits that are associated with going cashless. And with the pandemic now, I think in the short term, one of the value propositions is that, hey, we can help you support social distancing in a more contactless way. It makes your guests feel safe and comfortable. But long term, I think one of the things that we are really challenging is this idea of point of sale solutions. Typically, they're very expensive to retrofit an entire stadium with hardware, right? So do you really need all of those point of sale registers? Can a fan order from their seat, get notified when their order is ready for pickup, or get delivered directly to their seat without those expensive point of sale solutions? Can you figure it out operationally? And so it's a really interesting business case that I think will start to unfold, but definitely one that is here to stay. And thanks in part to the pandemic for that. So
sure. So do you actually go in and consult with them on how to set it up to be contactless, not only providing the solution, but helping them figure out that process?
Totally. I think that's kind of part of our business model, and a little bit about what makes us a little bit unique. A lot of interesting edge cases when you go inside a venue. Aside from just general admission, you walk in on the concourse, here's all these different concession stands. other areas that we service, and take a look at, our club level, how do we provide a, premium experience for club level guests and premium
Hmm.
suite as well. So uh, it's been kind of tradition when after you book a premium suite to send, oh, we're going to send you or fax you a PDF of a menu to book
Mm.
your kind of concession packages. Well, that's a pretty laborious process. Why don't we just streamline that and make an entire e-commerce experience landing page to send, to those high paying clients to order your stuff right after you purchase a suite. So it's like some
Hmm.
of the little things that we do to help the different kind of departments within a venue. Aside from just mobile ordering, there's digital sponsorships and other things that we do to help support the program.
So you can actually incorporate sponsorships into the app or the program itself to help promote. That's cool.
Exactly.
So how well has this been received? Because this to me seems like a no-brainer, but how, sports venues, they're pretty traditional in how they approach things. Was this a easy sell for a lot of these venues, or has it been a bit of a challenge to get them to buy into it?
Um, it's I think it's a bit of a challenge.
Hmm.
Pre-pandemic, this was once looked at as kind of a nice to have solution for fans. I think now it's looked at or being regarded as a must have. And
Yep.
so I think venues of all shapes and sizes are planning to offer some shape or form of mobile ordering or contactless ordering as part of their ongoing product strategy and long-term planning. And so, from a business perspective, what we have learned when selling into venues and the B2B side is it's a process.
Hmm.
Oftentimes there are multiple decision makers and navigating through that to figure out, who are the right people to get in contact with, what are their budgets, and um, it, and then trying to get the economics to work has been challenging. But it's definitely something that's a lot more well received than back in 2014. So
Sure. Now I imagine, most of these places probably already have point of sale systems in place, correct? Because any
for the
venue I've been
medium,
into, yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
for medium and like enterprise or for larger professional teams, definitely without a doubt.
Yep.
For smaller types of venues, think of like high schools. It's
Hmm.
not really, right? It's
Right.
still largely dominated by taking cash transactions, and point of sale systems are fairly expensive. So a lot of the venues are at the smaller level just didn't have the budgets to justify spending that kind of money.
So how does that work if I'm like it's usually the booster club or the gridiron club at the local high school runs the
Yep.
concession stand for the football team. Most of the time is cash and carry, and it's cheap snacks and stuff like that. So how does this become a benefit for those groups?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is it's easy. Like payments are all integrated. So after the every event, the booster club funds are automatically dispersed directly to their account, so they don't have to deal with all of the cash handling and
Hmm.
potential liabilities associated with that. I think after one, football, homestand night, there's 10, 30, 40, 50, however many thousands of dollars. It is a liability from the school faculty and administration perspective. So this reduces all of that. And what we have started to see, or what the data tells us, is that fans or customers are more likely to place higher average order on average. So we've seen 15-20% increase in check size, all the way up to order sizes nearly doubled, depending
Hmm.
on the kind of the service and everything like that. And then the frequency of orders. So people placing more orders more often is also another common thing that we've seen inside the stadium. So there's a financial benefit associated to it, but we've
Hmm.
also seen, operationally, I think if you think about the people that are running the concession stand on game day are like volunteer parents and
Correct.
things like that. Like not the most enjoyable volunteer job in the world, let's be honest. And so I think that, we've even heard, Booster Club members or volunteers say, wow, this actually takes a lot of pressure off our concession lines, because when you have a super long line, you get upset customers and you can get overwhelmed very quickly. So
Oh yeah.
for a solution like ours to take pressure off, I think there's some benefits too. And like from the fan perspective, less time waiting in line, more time in the fans and joining, while you're the purpose of why you're there in the first place. So,
Sure.
yeah.
Now, curiosity, because when you're talking about high school level sports, a little bit different than college level, because with college you're dealing with primarily adults, or at the very least, if you're dealing with children, you're dealing with children with adults. But I know from at least as far back as I can remember, when I was in high school, you might go with your friends, you're underage, you you may not have anything attached to your phone, for a bank account. How does your solution really help with something like that, or does it need a financial connection to take care of it?
Yeah, payments are done at the point of purchase. So when you download the app and you put items into the checkout, you can pay with either a credit card. We have Apple Pay and Google Wallet also integrated into the technology. And like some of the things, like one of the things that are on our roadmap includes a an ability to have like a family account. So if I'm the
Mm,
father, I can then load balance funds onto my son's account to place orders. And one of the cool things that we're starting to see too is some of our high schools are using fan food for kind of daily purchases at that local cafe inside the high
mhm.
school for pickup and stuff. So schools are the experience, the food and beverage experience today in high school looks much different than they did 20, 30, ever. It's crazy. You have
Yeah.
full-fledged cafeterias and restaurants and all these, the experience is entirely upgraded. So it's
Yeah, I
interesting.
had a lunch lady and a punch card. That was the extent of my high
Yeah.
school experience, when
And
it
they're
came to
like, do I
eating.
want sushi today? Steak and eggs? Like it's completely different. That's probably a
Well, I
little
will say at my
exaggerated.
kid's school, it hasn't got quite that advanced yet,
Yeah,
but
that's it.
they
That's
do
probably
have
a
a
little
little bit more
exaggerated.
choice than we did back in the day. That's for sure. Now, will this, there's a lot of times vending machines in schools. Have you reached the point where you would even incorporate that far, where you could,
Possibly, yeah.
I
We've
want a
actually
Coke,
talked to
so
some
you
vending.
type in the number and it.
Yep. Use it on your, you can put the items in the checkout, and then once you hit submit, it automatically vends the items from that vending machine. It's
Nice.
definitely stuff that, we've talked about. We've talked to some vending machine like vendors that are interested in that type of experience. We haven't done any partnerships along that, but definitely think that's where it's going.
Got it.
Mhm.
So let's talk about the pandemic a little bit, because I would imagine you started in 2014. You got a couple years of runway ahead of you, and built up some momentum, and then 2020 hits. What was business like for last year when all this was going on?
Yeah, it's funny. I was like talking to one of my buddies the other day, and he's interviewing for a job, and I was thinking, man, if that was me and they asked me like, what was your biggest challenge that you've had to experience? I was going to be like, well, I started a business and it relies on large event gatherings, and a global pandemic, wiped us out pretty much. But to say it was a challenge would be an understatement. Hardest year of my life, without a
Yep.
question. Um, in 2019 was what I would view as the beginning stages of our ramp up, our growth
Mm,
ramp up. Right, it's
sure.
the first time we had received venture backed, money.
Hmm.
Started building out a sales team near the end of 2019, starting to ramp up, into quarter one, um, and then everything kind of started to unfold, and it was, man. Um, I was kind of planning. I remember this in quarter one of 2020, going out to fundraise that next round of funding, and as soon as the pandemic hit, and I'm like, well, that's not going to be worth a good use of my time. So I'm going to pivot my time and focus. What do we do about this? So we
Hmm.
actually did a number of things. The toughest one was we we had to make some operational adjustments to the
Sure.
team in order to preserve the cash runway that we did have. So
Hmm.
um, there was two times where we had to do that, kind of near, I would say, like April, May, and then near the end of the year. And those are always hard.
Right.
So that was my kind of first experience going through that process, which is very hard. Um, and then creatively, and in order to kind of keep cash flow coming in, I didn't want to completely hit the pause button. I was like, how do we, we're a mobile ordering platform that supports social distancing in a contactless way. So clearly
Right.
there's something that we can do about that.
Yep.
So we pivoted into new markets. So drive-ins is one of the examples that I think we did really
Mm.
well as a team. They were an underserved, overlooked market in 1940s. There was thousands across the country.
Right.
Today, there a couple hundred. Not a ton, but we focused our sales and marketing efforts there, and we went out and probably got 15-20% of the market, and it was a way to help offset some of the cash flow. We kind of reimagined our business model. We were trying to have a SaaS kind of focused solution where we introduced a kind of a pay as you go, still commission free for the businesses. We didn't take a
Hmm.
revenue share off the F&B sales. What we would do is just added, a percentage onto each order,
Okay.
as a way. We're like, okay, this is adding convenience, so kind of pass it on to the end user. And that
Hmm.
allowed us, that really helped accelerate our sales cycle process, because they were we structured them as month to month or annual type contracts during the
Hmm.
season that they were using it. So that was super helpful. And then some of the other markets that we went into were, we signed up like a luxury resort kind of hotel in Miami, the SLS Brickell, and they're
Okay.
leveraging us for poolside, beachside, dine-in, room service. If you think
Mm.
about it, you go to a hotel to order room service, there's that dial-up phone that is from the 1980s, hasn't changed.
Right.
Well, now you place a QR code there, you scan the QR code, you order what you want, and it gets delivered. So we kind of have that whole system set up to be a little bit of a better experience, and then kind of encompassing the entire resort. And then we went into some restaurants, kind of started to dabble in that space, through a concept that we created called Building Eats. So very focused in the Chicagoland area, which is where our
Hmm.
headquarters is. And what we did was we partnered up with all these residential buildings, and we basically said, hey, we're going to bring you a food truck or a restaurant um, on a certain day of the week, and or a vendor, right? And
Hmm.
you guys, so the residents can have a kind of pre-order. So if Tuesday, it's Tuesday, we're going to bring, from 5 to 7 meals are going to be delivered from this local restaurant, or a food truck will be
Mm.
outside your building during that time where you can go and place orders for. And so we were very kind of took a piece of our team. We didn't have a big team, obviously, but we
Sure.
took kind of created a small little go-to-market team, and we attacked it. So we added, nearly 100 residential buildings, and signed up a bunch of these restaurants, because the whole thesis was like, hey, look, these are meals families are placing orders from, so they're going to be larger in size. And
Right.
so when you think of a restaurant that it's commission free, and you get 30 to 50 orders at 50 to $100 an order, that for a restaurant is very impactful during a time when they needed it, and
Yeah.
we
You
needed it
can't
too.
have anyone in house. Why not do it that way? Right.
Yeah. So we went very focused in the whole hospitality, industry, which is kind of, our kind of core space was sports and live entertainment, but we focused there. So technology, our technology roadmap focused on that, which later became our premium suite ordering capabilities as events and stuff start to turn back online. So
Hmm.
it was good in the sense that we were able to still innovate, still build against our technology roadmap, that, and strategy. So it still added value for our core market, knowing that not events weren't turned on, and there was at the time last year really no foreseeable timeline as to when events would start to come back. So
Mm-hmm.
it's been really, really great to see things coming back and fans filling the seats again. And yeah, so just, yeah.
Yeah, and of course we've got Summerfest around here, so it's going to be interesting to see how that comes off. And
It
I don't
will
know if you've
be.
been talking with those guys, but I'm sure that event's going to be packed to the gills because, of course, they didn't have it last year.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think people are really longing to get out and do things like those events again. But
Without a
it's really interesting how you were able to kind of shift that mindset and shift that approach to really provide a valuable service for a lot of businesses that were suffering. Because I can't remember what I heard last, but in Wisconsin specifically, like Madison, Milwaukee area, about 40% of the restaurants closed and they're never going to open again. Well,
It's
if
so
they
sad.
had this as an option, that might have been the deal breaker between closing your doors or being able to survive while all this was going on.
Yeah, that was the thesis, right? Like at the time,
Right.
and like something I like myself and the team could really get behind. Like that's what kind of kept us motivated to
Mm-hmm.
continue to fight through and weather the storm.
Are you feeling like a prisoner in your own business? And what I mean by that is you spent all your time growing this company and you've gotten it to a point where it should be functioning on its own, but you still find yourself doing more than you should. You're getting way more in the details and you're getting stuck working on things that you have the staff and the team to actually solve for you. If you're finding that you're stuck here and that you can't find a way out, you can't seem to grow your top line sales or your bottom line revenue, please feel free to reach out. Check out Dan Paulson, letsgo.com. That's Dan Paulson, letsgo.com to learn a little bit more about me and my company and what I can do to help you out. You can always reach out to me there and schedule a meeting. There's no obligation, no cost, and I might be able to provide you with some solutions that can help you get out of your own way. What was it like for the rest of the year? So obviously the spring it was a major impact. Did you see a bounce back in sales and revenue because of that? Obviously you didn't have the big events, but did the smaller ones make up for it?
I wouldn't say they made up for it, but what changed was, or I should say, pre-pandemic, one of our biggest challenges was how do we get fans inside a venue to learn about the service that we're providing? So whether that's downloading the iOS, Android Fan Food mobile application, or scanning a QR code behind a seat that punches out to our kind of progressive web app, a digital menu that you don't need to download an app to place an order.
Sure.
We have both products, or whether that's embedded into a team or stadium app, which has also been a trend for us. So creating a very personalized or white label kind of experience embedded in the app. So how do we get more eyeballs or more orders? And so with the pandemic, it was, what we were anticipating to achieve 3 to 5 years out, it was, generating in real time. So one of the examples is a high school decided to have events during the pandemic. And I think they had, 2 to 500 people, on a normal night, they would have 5,000. And I think we got, we were getting hundreds of orders off of that small crowd, where that was like in a normal world with 5,000 people, we would have been like, that's a great night. so like we were near the end of the year in that fall, we're like, okay, this could be really exciting when events really start to turn on, you get more fans. Does that, the mental model for placing mobile orders, does that start to shift, or does that start to become the preferred way of ordering? And I think that's what we're starting to see.
I mean, to me, it's kind of a no-brainer. If you're sitting in a seat with 70,000 other people, and I've had tickets to college football for years, and of course, anytime there's a quarter break or halftime, everyone empties out of their seats, and now everyone that was sitting watching the game is out trying to get something to eat. Well, it's well into the third quarter before you're able to get back to your seat because it takes so long to get something. I could see where you could place your order midway through the quarter, midway through the game, and you get signal when you need to go pick it up, which will cut down on a lot of that congestion, a lot of that traffic.
Exactly, exactly. And like some of the things that we've had to accommodate for, and venues are pretty complex, but this is why it makes our platform kind of unique because when a fan places an order, half that order might get routed to a pantry for
Mm,
for the hot food, and the other
right.
half might get routed to the drink side. And so like how do you, and each venue is kind of has its own nuanced kind of challenges. So
Hmm.
we had to set up the system to be able to not only support that, but then also how do you communicate the expectations with the fan,
Right.
right? Because there is still that like instant gratification, right? You want your
Hmm.
stuff, you want it now. So what we built was kind of like this algorithm where we can, and it's kind of based on the queue and the order volume and the way that we have our system set up. It kind of communicates the left and right limit as to like when a customer can expect to receive
Mm,
that order, whether that is for express pickup or in-seat delivery. So we say, okay, if you're gonna place your order, it's gonna take 15 to 25 minutes to prepare. So
mm.
that's like, so we had to introduce kind of things like that. But again, it's just continuing to make our platform better and better from the
No,
feedback
that's
we
awesome.
get. Mhm.
Be interesting to see because just familiarity with stadiums. You have all these different venue spots, and I've been on cruise ships before, and cruise ships have the kiosk where okay, if you go to this venue, there's nobody there right now, where if you go over here, it's completely packed. You could
Totally.
almost get to the point where you do the same thing and say, well, the one right behind me is completely full, but if I order from the one across the way, I can place the order now. By the time I get there, I pick up my food and go.
Totally, totally. Or the ability to order in one order from multiple different concession stands.
Mm,
If I want, because they're getting like more and more unique.
right.
The concession experience is kind of evolving to more of this like premium, like this concession stand A is barbecue and concessions,
Yep.
B is tacos and C, so it's all these different. So I think that's kind of where we get to next is how do you do that? Haven't done it yet, but with this whole idea of fulfillment centers that we recently released, where we can send orders to every which way, that's kind of the beginning stages of what that could look like. But
Hmm.
totally would load balance, the inventory for the people that are responsible for fulfilling those concessions. So I
Right.
definitely think it's a benefit. And then too, another thing is like the common, it's common, like if your halftime rolls around, everyone gets up out of their seat, they go wait in line so that because they don't want to miss any of the action, right? Where
Right.
now, some of the stuff that we can do is like, oh, we can set a push notification, um, maybe in the first quarter or the third quarter and incentivize them, hey, $2 off your order to go grab it now,
Now,
kind
yeah.
of smooth out that balance. Because there was a statistic nearly it was done pre-pandemic, but they said like 47, nearly half of fans will opt out of purchasing concessions because of long lines. So then the question
Hmm.
becomes how much revenue is being left on the table because of not streamlined operations. So
Well, I know there's been several times where, you get up, you're going to go get something and head to the bathroom, and you look at the lines, you say, well, I'll check it when I come out of the bathroom. If the line's still as long, I just go back to my seat. So I completely
back,
relate to that statistic because yeah, when you're dealing with, anywhere from 15, 20,000 people at a basketball game to 70, 100,000 people at a football game, that can be monotonous to try and actually get something to eat.
totally,
So let's
totally. And
backtrack a
like,
little bit. Um, I know you mentioned that at the beginning of all this, you had to make some staffing adjustments. Tell me more. I mean, the obvious, you know, information was right in front of you that this was going to last a little while, and you either had to lay people off or you had to let people go. What was kind of the thought process of going through all that?
um, and I would say they're all kind of relatively new, and I really believed in the team, so I wanted to mitigate is less layoffs is humanly possible.
Right.
So, um, because I wanted to give everyone an opportunity to try to like see if we can pivot, if we can keep cash flow going, And so, I like some of the things that we did before we actually, did the layoffs is we cut, leadership, cut, the salaries. So
Right.
myself, co-founder, we went for quite some time without even paying ourselves, which was stressful in itself, but
Mm-hmm.
it kind of delayed having to make tough decisions. So that's like one of the things that we did or decided to do as a leadership team. Um, and then, I should say we are also very fortunate because we did receive the second and third round of PPP. So that was actually like incredibly helpful
Mm.
for our business. Um, um, what else? Did you ask like specifically where or?
Well, what led to, because what I've experienced with many business owners is either A, they wait too long, so they keep people on too long, or they don't really have a strategy on how to let people go or bring people back. And, this ideally was a short term issue, correct? We were in the beginning, 15 days to flatten the curve. Well, 15 days turned into 30, turned into 6 months, turned into a year or better. But at the same point, it's going to end at some time. And in order to keep the continuity going, you have to be able to bring that talent back or try and keep as much of that talent as possible. So I was just curious, as you point out, you streamline or you cut your salaries back to help protect those positions. But what else did you do to kind of make sure you were keeping your best talent on no matter what? And how are you keeping connected maybe to that talent that you had to let go because you just didn't have a choice at that point?
Yeah, I
PP
would say,
obviously helped with some of that.
yeah, yeah, no, and for the folks that we had to let go, I'm like super happy that we've been able to help them all go out and get new jobs,
That's
which
great.
was like all of them. They all have new jobs, and like that, I'm really happy like that they all got new jobs. Um, and so that was great. I would say to your first comment about, some people waited too long. And I think we're kind of like, admittedly, I'm a first time entrepreneur.
Sure.
And I think there's kind of I'm a little bit of both, right? So I think
Mm-hmm.
we did as good of a job as we could to be proactive with the first round. The second round was a lot harder. And I'd be lying if I said we didn't get some support. So we brought in someone to help run kind of some of the day-to-day operations,
Okay.
which was like super helpful. But like me as the entrepreneur in that environment, I also got kind of burnt out at the end of the year too.
Oh, sure.
Um, for my, I think maybe part of it is my inability to make the decisions when I probably needed to make them.
Sure.
You could probably correlate that to, or at least a piece of it, to how I end up getting burnt out. But yeah, burnout's definitely a very real thing. Happened to me. It was uh,
Especially in these circumstances.
yeah, I had to take some time off from work. But I'm very fortunate that I had like good family that I was got the support I needed. So
Yeah. So how did they support you on that? Because I think that's an important thing to mention. There are always going to be times when we need help, whether you're a first time entrepreneur or whether you're a long time business owner. And you grew up in the Midwest here. You're originally from Iowa, correct? I'm
yes,
from Wisconsin, and it seems like pulling teeth to get people to reach out and ask for help when they really need it, because it's not our nature. So how did you
yeah.
get that support? What did you do to reach out and seek
I
that?
I mean, I'm lucky because I think my folks, I mean, it was a tough year personally too. So I'd lost my
Mhm.
grandma, I'd lost my
Mm,
uncle, and so we were kind of dealing with that. And so I think they recognized that I was, depressed or not kind of the same that I normally was, and
sure.
they had made the decision collectively to, uh, you know, put me in or recommend that I get some psychiatric help at one of those. So they kind of checked me in. They drove me to a hospital, checked me in for a few days just to get some
Hmm.
help. They were just kind of concerned about where my headspace was at.
Right.
Um, and I think to your point, without that, I don't even know if I would have done it, been proactive about, hey, I'm experiencing these mental health struggles, and I need
Hmm.
to get some help, without them kind of intervening and helping me realize that. And I think
Sure.
in by going through that process, I've learned a lot more about, the various triggers of like when stressful events happens and how do I respond to them, or when I'm feeling this way or that way. And just, I mean, it was just a great, I think, trying to be the optimist behind it too,
Hmm.
right? Personal growth, that I've like ever have gone through. So, which is, people say that like when you're going through some of the worst moments, that's where some of the best, you learn the most. And I've learned so much about myself going through that process. And, I think in the long run, the business will be better for it too.
Sure. Sure. Now you're one of the co-founders. How many other partners do you have in this business?
Too.
Too. How are they dealing with some of this? Because obviously it affects people differently.
Yeah, no. So one of them is more my age. We graduated school together, and I think they're kind of similar in the
Hmm.
sense that he's kind of focused on more on the sales and business development front, whereas the other business partner, um, married, has 3 daughters, also from Iowa, and definitely more of the he's kind of our head of customer success,
Hmm.
and an awesome supportive kind of person. So when I was going through this process, obviously incredibly supportive to kind of help
That's
me,
great.
with some of my day-to-day tasks. And um, they've been, hey, if there's anything that we can help you with or offload, we're here to help and support you. And so like they we all kind of, near the end of the year, we kind of came together closer and developed
Mm.
closer bonds, through these kind of tough experiences. And so, um, yeah, I mean, I think Dustin, probably the one with 3 daughters, he had his hands full dealing with, remote learning and stuff.
Yeah,
So he
exactly.
probably had a much more difficult time trying to manage that whole thing. I don't have any kids, so I don't know what that's
Right.
like. But
Right.
I'm sure that he was dealing with his own personal challenges as well. Um, and my other business partner saw it as an opportunity to move down to Florida. So so I think he's the happiest he's ever been to. So
There you go.
yeah, so
Well, good, good. Yeah, I think it's thank you for sharing that first of all, because I don't think enough people reach out for help when they have that need. I don't think we recognize it. We might see something off, but I know I've been in situations that I wish I would have gotten help for. I had a business that, well, part of this business actually, that at one time wasn't doing as well as it could, and you're dealing with all the issues going on around it, and I felt like I was on an island. I really didn't have a support group around me. Fortunately, I have a very strong spouse who believed in me, and we got through it. But it gets to be challenging at times, and when you are all alone, it's very hard to deal with some of those adverse issues. But you're coming through it strong, and everything's going well, it sounds like. Also, you've got a huge opportunity coming up now. So with adversity comes opportunity, and you're kind of aligned for that. So what's next with Fan Food?
yeah. Well, just one note about what you just said too. I think feeling like you're on that deserted kind of island.
Hmm.
It's lonely. That totally feel that. Oftentimes, right? And
Hmm.
that's something that I miss when we kind of went to this fully virtual environment. I miss that the team and the
Mm.
collaboration and that whole kind of piece. And one thing I learned while I got burnt out was, um, like taking on too, or feeling like you're taking on
Right.
too much responsibility when when in reality you have a very like capable, you know, team, and you don't like, and you can delegate some of that. So
Sure.
I always thought like, oh, you can, just delegate, we talk about delegation a lot, but like to truly put that into practice is definitely something that I've learned. Like, you don't have to bear all of the responsibility. We're a team, we can share in some of that. And I think like that was one of the great outcomes of
Hmm.
doing that, of
Well,
going
I
through
think
that.
that's the trust a lot of business owners lack, right? Because
Totally,
your business is your baby.
totally,
Employees treat things differently than business owners do, and you
totally,
have to put your faith that people are going to do the right things, and most of the times they will. But
totally,
you got to be willing to let go of those tasks that we always believe that we have to have our hands in. So good for you on
totally,
doing that.
totally. And then to your second comment, so where do we go from here?
Yeah.
Um, I think if anything, what the pandemic has taught me is the importance of building a viable, sustainable business, one that's not just reliant on top line revenue growth, but one
Right.
that has a healthy balance of growth and costs to it, but it wants to build a profitable business. And I think
Hmm.
like it's really important values to to have as a company to build a profitable and sustainable business. Um, and so yeah, where we're focused on right now, like I said earlier in this recording, is that like we brought in someone to help run some of the day to day, so I could focus on some of that vision. Some of my time now is spent executing some larger transformational partnerships for the business that I'm like so thrilled about. Just going to provide so much opportunity for the team, and just yeah, it's the vision of fan food coming to life in real time, and it's just been an incredible journey thus far, and it's just a whole new chapter that we're going through right now, and learning a ton, um, and yeah, closing. I think it's we'll see what the next 6 to 12 months look like, but lot of opportunity for the fan food business, and just exciting problems to tackle next. So
That's great. So as we're wrapping up here, one question I always ask my guests: if there was one thing you could tell a business owner, and it could be somebody new in a startup situation, kind of like you are in, or somebody who's well advanced in what they're doing, what's the one thing you would tell them that you believe would help them be more successful?
mm, mm. Interesting. So I feel like my entrepreneurial journey has been a lesson of what not to do every step.
Most of them are, by the way.
every every new page or every new chapter or every new milestone that you hit, it's like, all right, how can I do that better, maybe more efficiently, or what didn't I do that I could do better next time? And I think that in and itself is kind of like entrepreneurship at its finest. And the ones that like I don't know are successful are the ones that just keep doing that, like just
Right.
keep going, right? Like it's pretty simple.
Yep.
But just don't stop doing it. Just
Yep.
keep learning what not to do and keep going.
Yep.
That's my advice.
Simple but not easy. That's
Exactly.
one thing I've learned. Well, that is
Exactly.
great advice. Carson, thank you so much. Thanks for being so open and sharing everything. I wish nothing but the best for fan food, and we should actually do this again in about a year and see what's changed and how you've evolved, because I think it would be fun to kind of do a retrospective on where we're at post pandemic to now you've advanced forward 12 months and what's changed.
Totally. We should definitely do that because I think it'll be night and day different. So
Excellent. Excellent. Well,
awesome.
thanks again, Carson. I really appreciate it and look
Yeah.
forward to having you back on.
Yeah. Thanks, Dan. Thanks for having me
You
on.
bet.
Seriously. Appreciate it.
Thanks again for checking out Successful Not Satisfied. Hopefully, there's something you learned and you're able to take away and use in your own company. Check out our next episode in the coming weeks. And also, I would like to take a moment to thank our sponsor, KGI Design Group. They have been instrumental in helping put these podcasts and many other things together for us. They do a lot of my graphics and my branding. And if you need help with that, I urge you to contact them. KGIDesignGroup.com. Thanks again.